War of the Roses 1455 to 1487. The Wars of the Roses was a civil war fought by two British royal families, Lancaster and York, over the throne and lasted for about 32 years from 1455 to 1487. It took place against the backdrop of the English royal family's succession to the throne and political turmoil, and the symbols of the two families were called the Rose War because they were red roses, Lancaster and white roses Yoke, respectively. The result of the war ended with a victory for the Lancaster family, and the English throne was firmly inherited with the establishment of the Tudor dynasty, and the foundation for the modern state was laid with the decline of the feudal aristocracy in the Middle Ages. 1. The background of the war. The Rose Wars, which erupted after the end of the Hundred Years' War, intensified political, economic, and social unrest in England. Henry IV abdicated Richard II to the throne in 1399, and the Lancaster dynasty's authority began to falter due to King Henry VI's weak power. The kingdom was plunged into chaos due to power struggles and aristocratic disputes. Because Henry VI was mentally unstable, the York family claimed the right to inherit the throne, and developed into a civil war. 1.1. The weakening of the royal authority, and the confrontation of aristocratic forces. Britain was divided internally during Henry VI's rule. Henry VI, unlike his predecessors, failed to exert strong leadership, and Queen Margaret de Anjou tried to take full control on behalf of Henry VI while exerting political influence. On the other hand, Richard, head of the York family, the Duke of York, criticized Henry VI's incompetence and insisted that he had the right to the throne. Under these circumstances, several nobles supported different families, sparking a war. 1.2. The question of succession to the throne. As a direct descendant of Edward III, the York family claimed the throne. Richard, the Duke of York, began to seek the throne in protest of Henry VI's weak governance, and the mental illness gap of Henry VI accelerated this. The Duke of York was appointed regent when Henry VI fell out of control due to mental problems in 1453. However, the Duke of York was forced to step down as regent when Henry VI recovered, which sparked a conflict between the Yorks and the Lancasters. 2. Major battles and events. 2.1. First Battle of Street, Albans 1455. The first battle of the Rose Wars was the Battle of Street, Albans on May 22, 1455. In this battle, the Yorks won over the Lancaster and captured Henry VI. Richard, Duke of York, was later appointed regent again, but Queen Margaret de Anjou remained in political power and continued her confrontation with the Yorks. 2.2. Battle of Wakefield 1460. Richard, Duke of York, was defeated and killed by Lancaster forces at the Battle of Wakefield in 1460. The York family was severely damaged by this battle, but Edward, the Duke of York's son, continued to fight the war. Despite his father's death, Edward quickly recovered militarily and expanded his power. 2.3. Battle of Towton 1461. The Battle of Towton was the fiercest and greatest battle of the Rose Wars in March 1461. The York family's Edwardian victory was followed by the deposition of Henry VI and his enthronement as Edward IV. Edward IV's accession to the throne was a significant turning point for the York family. 2.4. Return of Henry VI and infighting of the York family. Although Edward IV was enthroned, his reign was not stable. In 1470, Earl Warwick, Edward's political ally and important figure, parted ways with him, and the Civil War resumed in support of the Lancaster family. The Earl of Warwick put Henry VI back on the throne, and Edward IV had to temporarily seek asylum. 2.5. Battle of Barnet and Battle of Tuberry 1471. In 1471, King Edward IV returned to England and defeated the Earl of Warwick at the Battle of Barnet and Prince Edward, the son of King Henry VI, at the Battle of Tuberry, completely toppling the Lancaster family. As a result, Edward IV established the throne again, and Henry VI died at the Tower of London. 3. Richard III's accession to the throne and the resurrection of the Red Roses. 3.1. Death of Edward IV and accession of Richard III. When Edward IV passed away in 1483, his son Edward V took over the throne at an early age. However, Richard III, the younger brother of Edward IV, removed his nephew Edward V and took the throne. Richard III tried to strengthen the throne, but his usurpation of the throne sparked a backlash from many nobles. 3.2. Battle of Bosworth 1485. In 1485, Henry Tudor, a Lancaster descendant, led an army back from France to face Richard III. The two forces clashed at the Battle of Bosworth, in which Richard III was killed and Henry Tudor won. Henry Tudor later ascended to the throne as Henry VII, founding the Tudor dynasty. 4. The consequences of war. 4.1. Establishment of the Tudor dynasty. Henry VII ended the War of the Roses and opened the Tudor dynasty. He married Elizabeth of the Yorks, a descendant of the Lancaster family. reconciling the two families and resolving the issue of succession to the throne. Henry VII led a united kingdom and laid the foundation for England's subsequent development into a modern state. 4.2. Decline of feudal aristocracy. The Rose Wars brought an end to the fierce power struggle between noble families, and the significant weakening of the feudal aristocracy in England. During the war, many noble families collapsed or their power diminished, and Henry VII strengthened the monarchy by strengthening centralized rule. 4.3. Social and economic changes. Britain's society and economy were greatly affected by the Rose Wars for a long time, but after the war, Britain was stabilized and economic reconstruction took place. As the monarchy strengthened, trade and commerce became active again, and the Tudor dynasty developed Britain into a modern country based on this.